Hey, thank you so much for the warm introduction, people. It's really, really exciting to be here. I hope you're all having a great time at Meridian. I hope you also have the time to explore and enjoy a little bit of Madrid. It's a great city. So we are here today. Let me just, they changed the first slide, but we are here today to talk about Stellar for asset tokenization. And then we're going to introduce you the Sandbox V2. And this is an enhanced platform of our learning platform for asset issuance, smart contracts, and treasury management. So in the session today, I'll recap what makes Stellar so great for asset issuance, and then I'll also recap why we have built in the first place a platform for asset issuance. And then we'll finally deep dive in the sandbox itself, in the Sandbox V2. And here, I'm going to show you how easy and straightforward it is for really anyone without a development expertise to explore and issue and manage assets on Stellar. And then, of course, we also have some time for QA. And this specific section will be in a demo-like format. So anyone who has a computer can actually access the sandbox itself and play with it while I'm showing some recorded videos. And just a little bit of background about myself. I'm Marcelo, CEO of Cheesecake Labs, and we are a software consultancy design and engineering company that has been in the market for 10 years, helping clients from different industries to solve problems with technology. And more specifically, with blockchain and with Stellar, we've been working on solutions around stablecoins, CBDC pilots, mobile digital wallets for MoneyGram, for example, and also Soroban use cases. And by the way, in case you haven't done it yet, remember to download your MoneyGram digital wallet and receive your 10 USDC, make a withdrawal, and provide feedback, please. So here from the audience, who has already built or explored something on Stellar? Great, so nearly like 10 or 20%. So for those who haven't yet, I just wanted to highlight that Stellar is a public distributed blockchain network that's particularly optimized for asset issuance and payments, together with other financial transactions. And Stellar does have a lot of interesting core features for asset issuance, and I wanted to highlight that in terms of speed, transactions on Stellar confirm very fast, in around 5 seconds. So this means that Stellar is fast enough for nearly real-time payments and transactions. Also, in terms of cost, oftentimes 1 cent of a dollar can pay for thousands of transactions on Stellar. And the network right now, under current capabilities, can scale to around 1,500 transactions per second. And particularly important for asset issuance, Stellar has some built-in asset controls that allows you as an asset issuer to actually choose who can hold and transact with your assets. We're going to explore this later. And as it was announced yesterday, now the network has Soroban for more advanced programmability. And those asset control features are so essential for asset management that we have actually implemented them all on the sandbox so that everyone can actually play and see how it works. So first, we have approved users that allows you as an asset issuer to actually choose who is authorized to hold your asset. And this is particularly important, for example, if you want your customers to go through a qualification process before they can actually hold the asset. So if you want them to do KYC first, for example. Next, we also have freeze assets, and this gives you as asset manager the possibility to freeze and revoke the authorization from your users. And this is also particularly important, for example, in case you have updated your KYC policies and you want your users to go through the KYC process again. And finally, there's clawback. And this gives you, as an asset issuer, the power to actually burn assets from a user's account. And this can be helpful, for example, if your customers lost access to their account and you want to reissue the assets back to them. And finally, now we have Soroban. So if you need more advanced programmabilities and rules to be coded in your asset and run them on chain, now you can explore with Soroban. And here today, we are actually going to showcase one use case of Soroban around this asset management context. So if Stellar is so great for like asset issuance. Why we have, and if Stellar has all those built-in asset controls, why we have actually built a sandbox for asset issuance in the first place. So it all started with us trying to solve a real problem for a partner. Mercado Bitcoin, for those who are not familiar, is one of the largest crypto exchanges in Latin America. And they have been tokenizing a variety of assets in the blockchain since 2019. And last year, they came to us, Cheesecake, and to SDF with two problems. Basically, their operations was getting too expensive because they were issuing more and more assets, and the gas fees on Ethereum were increasing in cost. And also, they needed more people from their company without a technical background to be able to issue and manage assets. So with that in mind, we worked together to launch one specific platform for Mercado Bitcoin, and they used this tokenization platform to issue one stablecoin pegged to Brazilian reais. And once this was launched, Cheesecake and SDF kept working together to evolve this platform into a learning platform so that anyone with some Stellar expertise could have a platform which was very intuitive to play with, and they could very easily integrate with an external wallet called Freighter to sign for all their transactions. And with this platform, which is the V1 launched last year, you could actually play with different assets, issue and manage them all on Stellar testnet. But as we kept evolving and getting feedback from users, we did understand that the previous platform still required some Stellar expertise. For example, people would still need to have some understanding of Stellar concepts like trust lines, issuer account, distribution account. And also, as it was non-custodial, you still had to integrate with an external wallet, Freighter in this case. And as people were issuing and managing more and more assets, it was hard to have a unified view of all of their assets and to get insights of the actual usability of those assets. So with this in mind, we kept working together, and we are now introducing the Stellar Sandbox V2. And that's an enhanced version that allows for anyone to actually issue and manage assets with a much more intuitive interface. And this actually reflects how institutional asset issuers use a platform like this in their context. So it now integrates features like custodial wallets. So now you no longer need to integrate with an external wallet yourself. Everything is included. It also has some Soroban smart contracts and treasury management services. So anyone here who has a computer can actually access this URL and use the platform. And I will now go through some recorded videos to show you how the platform actually works. And just give a few seconds for anyone who is trying to access the sandbox. You can actually drop the sandbox at the end, everything will work. Yeah. So first, now as you can see, the interface has been totally redesigned, so it's much more easy, it's much easier for anyone without a technical background to issue assets on the Stellar network. And as you can see, everything is very intuitive from a user perspective. I hope you guys are managing to access the sandbox right now. Yeah, so one of the things that we did to make this more intuitive for users is to make this a custodial version. So it means that now you can trust the platform to hold the keys and sign for all the transactions, while you, as an asset issuer and manager, can just worry about making the operation itself. So you can just issue an assets very easily without these external integrations with other wallets. And you can just spend your time really issuing assets, managing transfer assets from different accounts. And here in the video, we can see how easy it is to issue an asset. So an asset has just been issued in the network. And they wanted to highlight that the first version, which was non-custodial, is still available. So for more tech-savvy users who wants to actually integrate with a wallet, that option is still possible. And now I'll go through some features to explain why they exist on the sandbox, and then we'll go through together like a complete life cycle of issuing, managing, and distributing an asset in the Stellar network. So now we are introducing role-based access control, and this feature is particularly important for large organizations as they usually have a governance structure in place and they need specific roles of users to have specific permissions in terms of asset management. So here in this example, for example, we'll have the role of a treasurer, who is some user with the capability and permission to transfer assets within the organization and externally to other accounts. We also had the role of an asset issuer, and the asset issuer is someone who can actually also issue an asset and manage, and an administrator who can also manage users. So everything in the platform is very flexible, and it all depends on your organization's actual needs. Next, we are also introducing treasury management. So here, each vote is a Stellar account, and they can represent any entity that makes sense for your organization. So those entities, for example, could be different branches of your organization, if you're a bank, for example. So here we are exemplifying an asset issuer creating a different account for a branch of the bank in Barcelona. And the whole example here is around showing different branches of a bank in different places. Other applications, for example, could include you as an asset issuer to have vaults or account for your company, for different areas of your company. So everything is flexible and depends on what you as an organization actually needs. And once the vaults or the branches are created, you can actually start to make transactions between those vaults. And everything is very easy to do for anyone without any technical background. So here, for example, the treasurer from São Paulo is just transferring some assets to another branch in Madrid. And the video here is not simulated, it's a real-time recording, so you can see that the transactions themselves, they happen really fast in just around 5 seconds. And now finally going through this whole workflow of asset management in the sandbox. As an asset manager, you can see a list of assets that you have issued with all the basic information like name, supply, asset types, and you can also see all the controls that you have set for each one of those assets. And then the operation to issue a new asset is very, very simple. So all you need to do is to provide some basic information like asset name, code, and the initial supply. And then it's very interesting because you can actually just choose which flags you actually want to apply for your assets. So here, we are simulating a company that's issuing a bond to represent a company, the bonds of a company that they want to offer to their users. So let's say that I want users or customers who are residents from one specific country to have authorization to buy this bond. So I'm activating the authorization flag. And I'm also activating the freeze and the clawback flag because I actually want to remove the authorization from those users in case I need them to go through KYC again. So as you can see, the asset has already been issued. The whole operation is as simple as you're seeing here. It just took around 5 seconds. And then you can see a lot of different information about your asset. And you can very easily start to mine new assets. So let's say that you want to increase the liquidity of your asset and mine a higher quantity. So you can just go to the dashboard, and here we just minted like 1 million extra in terms of quantity of that specific bond. And let's say, for example, that your company just updated their policy and you want to reduce the circulation supply. So you can just go and burn some assets. Here in this case, we are actually burning 10% of the assets, and all the operations that are actually happening on-chain, super, super fast. So great, so now we have created a new asset, which is already on the blockchain. We have played a little bit with mining new assets, burning new assets, and you can see the total supply in my account as an asset issuer. Now I can actually start providing authorizations for vaults or accounts to actually hold that asset and later start transacting that asset between themselves. So here, for example, as an asset manager, I would call the treasurer from Madrid, for example, and then Singapore, and ask them to request the authorization to hold this asset. And the operation is super simple. They just go to the dashboard and they say, hey, my branch, my bank is now ready to start selling this bond to my customer. So I want to have the right to hold this asset. So Paris is also requesting access to this bond that I just issued. So now we can see that all of those 3 vaults, they have requested access to this bond, but their balance is still 0, and they are not authorized. So what I would need to do as an asset manager is actually go through the dashboard as well and start providing the authorization to each one of them. And as you can see, you just go to one section and you can choose between all of those different vaults, which one you actually want to authorize to hold your asset. So here in this example, we are just saying that all of those 3 vaults, Madrid, Singapore, and Paris, they're all allowed to sell this bond to their customers. And once we are authorizing assets, we can see that everything happens super fast because this is just the confirmation time from the Stellar blockchain network. So great. So those 3 vaults, now they have the authorization to actually hold the asset. And as an asset manager, I could start distributing these assets to those organizations. But actually, just to showcase here, let's say that something happened in Paris, and now France, for example, is no longer allowed to sell this bond. So I'm just going to this section, and I'm going to freeze the accounts, to freeze the account for Paris specifically. So you can see that Paris can no longer hold or transact with the asset, while Singapore and Madrid still have the authorization. So once the asset is created and the right authorizations are in place for different vaults, we can now actually start distributing this asset. So here we are just, as an asset manager, I'm distributing some assets to Madrid. I'm also going to distribute some assets to Singapore. Awesome. So once those 2 vaults or accounts actually have the assets themselves, they can actually start making transactions between themselves or offer to their external users according to their existing platform or existing system. So here in this example, we are actually, the treasurer from Singapore, for example, is transferring some assets to Madrid. And you can see that this happened super fast as well. And you can see the payment timelines of this asset. And if you just click on the button, you can actually see the transactions themselves that actually happen in the network. And as an asset manager, you can also see a lot of information about your asset and also see all these operations happening in the network itself. And as an asset manager, you finally have a unified view to see how all of your assets are behaving. So you can see the payment timelines for all of your assets. You can see the volume of transactions from those assets to different accounts as well. And everything is super, super intuitive. So you, as an asset manager, can really have like great insights on how people or different vaults are actually holding and transacting with their assets in the network. And then if you want to see more specific information about specific assets that you have, you can also see more detailed information, like the number of accounts that are actually holding the asset, the number of payments for that specific asset. You can see the distribution payment line for that asset. And everything is just as simple and intuitive as we're seeing here. And of course, this is on testnet, so anyone is free to access that URL and play with the platform and try to break it and provide feedback. So everything that we have seen so far has been done on Stellar Classic, which, as you have seen, is great for asset management because it's very cost effective and fast. But then if you need your assets to have more specific rules, just with Stellar Classic, you need to code them off-chain. And then Soroban, that's now been released, offers this capability for you to create more specific rules and properties for your asset and have this running on-chain. And it's going to be super exciting to see how others in the ecosystem are going to explore the interoperability between Stellar Classic and Soroban. And here, just for a use case, let's think of a company who wants to offer a certificate of deposits to their users and see how this can be done both with Stellar Classic and Soroban. So with Stellar Classic, for example, you can very easily create a token to exemplify the fiat currency that people are going to use to invest in the certificate of deposits. Certificate of deposits, or a CD, is, for those who are not familiar, an earning product that earns interest over your investment value for a period of time. So with Soroban, you can actually code all the characteristics of your certificate of deposits, and you can have this smart contract running on chain. So now, to make things easier, let's see how this plays out for an investor named John, who is going to invest $10,000 US from Stellar Classic on a certificate of deposit that has been issued on a smart contract with Soroban. So here we have the USDK, for example, which is a stablecoin issued on Stellar Classic. And we have different vaults. So one account is showing the balance of John, 10,000 USDK, and the other account is showing the actual balance that has already been invested in the certificate of deposits. So John is accessing this interface to interact with the smart contract. And here we can see that we have coded the smart contract with some characteristics. For example, the annual interest rate is 1.5%, and the compound rate, they happen every 1 year. And 1 year here is simulated as 10 seconds. So John has invested 10,000 USDK in this certificate of deposits. Now, as time is passing by, we can see that he's actually accumulating more interest over his investment. We can see that his balance is now 0 because the funds have moved from his account to the certificate of deposit itself. And then after 6 years, or in this simulation, 60 seconds, John wants to make an early withdrawal. We can see that his balance has actually increased based on the interest that he has earned over this investment. And once this is done, he can actually go to his vault. And we can see that he is actually holding his initial balance plus everything that he earned from his investment. So this specific section about Soroban was just a preview. This is going to be launched in the sandbox early next month, as Soroban is now on testnet. And it's going to be exciting how others in the ecosystem are also going to explore this interoperability between Stellar Classic and Soroban. And here, just to finalize with another great announcement. So all the code base for the Sandbox V2 is actually going to be released as open source. So this means that anyone who wants to build some product related to asset management can use this code as a starting point, and you can take this to production and actually customize to your specific needs, and you can integrate with the systems of your specific company. Of course, in the GitHub of the Sandbox, you can have some information around and some guidelines on the required steps to take this to production. And you can also count with Cheesecake as well in case you need any help. So if you have, we still have 1 minute, so I'm happy to take some questions.
Let me give it to Rob.
I'm a obsessed question asker. No, that said, there are some banks in the room. I'm not going to name them, but I'm happy that they joined the session. So I think an obvious question here is that you guys built this tool from the ground up. There was a particular use case that kind of triggered this to become what it is, but it's much more than it was when Mercado Bitcoin asked for it. And now it's going to become open source. But we know banks are not, that excited with open source stuff. So what would be potentially a process for a regulated financial institution to adopt this as part of their technology stack? How would you recommend the path?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the fact that we made this open source is not necessarily to make banks use this as an open source by themselves, but they can actually leverage this code to evolve to something more production ready and actually integrating with their specific systems. So some of the steps that would be required for a bank, for example, to take this to production would be to evolve the custody of the keys itself, because today, as this is on testnet, we just made a very simple solution internally. And for keys, for the custody of the keys, for example, there are a lot of partners in the ecosystem like Fireblocks, B2Go, who would be happy to integrate with this solution, so that this would be in a better position and more secure as well. And then, of course, this is on testnet, so there's the switch between testnet to mainnet. And then there's the integration between this interface with the existing bank's systems. And this would vary a lot from bank to bank. Yeah, so Cheesecake, as a software service provider, we have a lot of experience integrating with those key custody solutions like Fireblocks and B2Go, for example. So we would be more than happy to actually help those banks to evolve this to mainnet, to integrate with a better solution for key custody, and also to integrate the solution with their existing solutions.
Also, I just wanted to say, I think it's licensed under Apache 2.0, right? Which allows proprietary derivative work. So you can take the open source code and use that to build a proprietary in-house version. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. That's great to have a lawyer in the room as well.
I felt like there was a ton of information in there, lots more in the V2 sandbox than I was anticipating. Does anyone else have any other questions? Because I feel like that was a lot. And just inviting people to a safe space, no such thing as silly questions. If you kind of want to ask a basic question, Marcelo's a very friendly guy, so feel free. We don't have a session after this, so we can stay longer. If anyone has any other questions, feel free.
Yeah, and I will be here around until tomorrow, so more than happy to understand your specific context, your specific needs, and give more specific guidance in how this could be used for your bank or your institution or even your startup as well. And please feel free to also contact me with either email or WhatsApp or LinkedIn as well. Great, thank you.